Hi everyone, my name is Julie. I'm a professional makeup artist and hairstylist. And I also work as a bridal stylist, creating wedding looks for beautiful brides on one of the most important days of their lives. A lot of people who have never worked in the wedding industry think being a bridal stylist is a dream job. They imagine it's glamorous, easy, surrounded by beauty, happiness, flowers, love, and excitement. But what if I told you what sometimes happens behind the scenes of weddings? Today, for the first time, I'm starting to share stories from my career because I want people to understand that a bridal stylist needs more than just professional skills. You also need emotional stability and the ability to respond calmly to situations you could never expect. The story I'm sharing today is based on real events that happened more than 12 years ago. That's why I can finally talk about it. I've been in this profession for a very long time, and my experience is measured not only by the number of weddings I've worked on, but also by the different situations I've witnessed during them. For confidentiality reasons, I changed my bride's name as well as the wedding date, and I won't mention the location. Everything else is exactly how it happened. Wedding season in the summer is always very busy. It's a hot season. Everyone wants to get married in the summer. My bride, let's call her Ilona, booked her wedding date with me 6 months in advance. She paid her deposit, and the date was officially reserved for her. During the time leading up to her hair and makeup trial, we stayed in touch regularly. She would send me dress options, accessories she liked, and ideas she wanted to include. We also discussed her wedding style, her hairstyle, her makeup, and all the details of such an important day. Everything was calm, happy, and without stress, which is actually very rare. My bride knew exactly what she wanted and was confidently moving toward her dream. We scheduled her trial appointment 2 weeks before the wedding, and then the day of the trial came when I first met Ilona. This is what I remember. She was a young woman, around 25 years old, quite tall with a slim figure, even though she was pregnant and expecting a baby. Her light blonde, tightly curled hair fell over her shoulders. She had bright blue eyes, expressive lashes and brows, a delicate nose, and soft lips, and her blush on her face looked like kisses of angels, honestly. She looked like an angel who had descended from heaven in that moment, I thought. People like this really exist. Our trial went beautifully while we were trying different makeup and hair options. We laughed a lot and changed styles several times. We also talked about the baby she and her future husband were expecting. Time passed very quickly, and we managed to discuss everything because Ilona had very strong natural curls. We decided to first straighten her hair and then create a larger, softer curl. Yes, it would take more time, but it would give us the result she wanted on her wedding day. Her look was meant to become a Greek goddess. Her dress was also chosen in that style to not restrict her pregnancy and to match that soft, goddess-like aesthetic. When we finished the trial, we both felt completely satisfied and calm, which is very rare. Usually brides are nervous before the wedding. But here, there was silence and peace. 2 weeks passed quickly. The night before the wedding, I always call my brides to check in, give recommendations, and wish them a good night. And on the wedding day, I also call before I leave my house to let them know I'm on my way. This way they don't get nervous and know everything is under control. Ilona's wedding ceremony was scheduled a bit earlier than usual. Not very early in the morning, but earlier than a typical wedding timeline. And to make sure we had enough time for hair and makeup, I had to leave earlier than usual. Her apartment was about an hour and a half away from me without traffic, on a weekday. And on weekdays, there are always traffic delays. That morning, I called her before leaving. No answer. I thought she might still be sleeping. So I got in my car and started driving anyway. I called again. This time, she picked up. And then she said something I will never forget. "You don't need to come today anymore." The groom left the wedding. Silence. I could hear her crying on the other end of the phone, completely shattered. I realized she couldn't even speak properly, so I gently asked her to pass the phone to someone close to her. Her mother took the phone. I asked quietly, "What happened?" Her mother told me that Alona had been waiting for her fiancé to come home from his bachelor party that night. He returned early in the morning and immediately started a huge argument. He said he didn't want this kind of wedding, he wanted a different one, and suddenly he started demanding a limousine and other things, and her mother continued telling me the story. She said, "You understand? I raised Alona and her brother alone. I'm paying for this wedding myself. The groom himself came from a small town. He doesn't really make much money, but their relationship seemed fine. But suddenly, he started making all these demands because his parents are coming by train with relatives, and he wants to show them how well he's doing in the capital. And now there's no limousine. So how is he supposed to meet them? What is he even going to show them?" Then she said he started complaining that after the wedding, his bachelor life would be over, and that his life would basically stop, and on top of that, the baby was coming soon. Then he slammed the door and left. I listened to her mother very carefully. Of course, I was in complete cultural shock, and I genuinely felt for them, especially because my angel was pregnant. It was so much stress for her. I remember thinking, how does something like this even happen? I told her that if anything changed, they should call me immediately, and if they needed any help at all, they shouldn't hesitate to reach out. Then I left. Or at least I thought I would. I actually turned the car around and went home. When I got home, my husband was surprised and asked why I was back so early. I said the groom left the wedding, and he just said very calmly, "Oh, he just got scared. He'll calm down, take a breath, and come back in a couple of hours. You'll see." I even asked him if he was really sure about that, and he said, "Yes, completely sure." Then he told me to go sleep since it was still very early. So I went to the couch and fell asleep deeply, with my phone right next to me, just in case. And 2 hours later, it rang. It was Alona. "Can you come and get me ready for the wedding?" He came back. I said of course I would come immediately. But I also warned her that it might take me longer to get there because morning weekday traffic had already started. I jumped up, got ready quickly, and ran out of the house without even eating breakfast. And my husband called after me. "I told you." He would come back. The drive ended up taking almost 2 hours because of traffic. While I was driving, I kept thinking and replaying everything in my mind. This was not an easy situation. I had to work fast and under serious emotional pressure. When I finally arrived at Alona's apartment building, I parked and walked into the lobby, carrying my 2 heavy suitcases. I was mentally preparing myself for whatever was next. When I reached her floor and stepped out of the elevator, Alona was already waiting for me. I smiled gently and asked how she was. And then I heard, I thought about it and I decided I'm not going to marry him. That's my decision. My suitcases literally slipped out of my hands. I just stood there, completely frozen, not knowing what to do. And then her mother appeared and said, "Let's go have breakfast." And the only thought I had in that moment was, some people fly to Paris or Milan for breakfast, and I'm just driving across the city into absolute chaos. And apparently breakfast, of course. I agreed and went with them. When I walked into the living room, her brother was standing on the balcony, nervously smoking, the tension in the air. You could almost feel it. It was like electricity hanging in the room. Her mother offered me coffee and some snacks, and there I was, sitting at the table, eating and drinking something, while next to me sat my angel, the blonde bride, calmly talking out loud about why she was considering not marrying her fiancé. I joined the conversation and we ended up talking for about an hour. I was telling her different stories from my friends, my colleagues, and even my own experiences, trying to calm her down and honestly trying to understand what I should even do in this situation. At some point, her mother joined us in the conversation, while her brother was still smoking on the balcony, completely detached from everything, and then suddenly, the groom appeared. When I saw him, I honestly lost my ability to speak for a moment. What a character. I looked at him, then at my bride, And I still couldn't understand how someone like her ended up with someone like this. He was short, very thin, with sharp facial features. His eyes were small like beads, set very close together, and his hair was light and dull, let's just say. Not exactly Apollo, but his attitude? Oh, that was very emperor-like. In a very quiet voice, he asked the mother of the bride and the bride herself to go into another room for a conversation, and they left. And there I was, sitting there, completely unsure what to do next. Should I wait? And if yes, how long? Or should I just leave and go home and face another 3 hours in traffic? The silence was eventually broken by her brother. He said that if he were in his sister's place, he would never tie his life to someone like that, because this was betrayal. And a person like that could do the same thing again. At the most important moment of life. And honestly, I found myself both agreeing and disagreeing at the same time, yes. Sometimes a single situation reveals a person's true nature and makes you question everything. But sometimes it can also be a very harsh lesson, one that forces someone to realize their mistakes and never repeat them again. Life is complicated, and in the end, this decision had to be made by my bride to forgive, but also to remember. And so I ended up talking with her brother for about an hour, maybe even an hour and a half. I honestly lost track of time. At some point during the conversation, I kept thinking about how much time I would need to do Ilona's hair and makeup, remember? I had already planned it, first straighten her hair, then curl it again, plus the makeup. And I kept thinking, when am I even going to have a clear direction in this situation? And then, suddenly, she came back and she said, "Okay, I'll marry him." The way she said it, it sounded less like a decision and more like she was doing someone a favor. But honestly, I felt relieved. Then she added that she needed to take a shower and wash her hair first, so I waited again. While she got ready, after that, I worked extremely fast. I just wanted to finish everything as quickly as possible and leave. And when she was finally ready, standing in the doorway in a luxurious dress, she looked like a Greek goddess, and looking at her fiancé, I still couldn't understand what she was doing with him. When her mother walked them out of the house and closed the door behind them, we both literally slid down the wall and ended up sitting on the floor. I was so emotionally drained and exhausted that I honestly thought I would have to pack my suitcases crawling. And then I asked her mother a question that had been sitting in my head the entire time, but there was simply no moment to ask it earlier. The wedding ceremony, the official one, was scheduled for a specific time. Guests, parents, relatives. Everyone was supposed to be there, but we had planned that the bride would be ready much earlier, and yet they left the house after 5 in the evening, so I asked, "Where is everyone? Who are they waiting for?" And her mother said something very calmly. "The actual ceremony is scheduled for the evening. They will arrive just in time. No one will even notice anything is off." And then she added that the person conducting the ceremony was their acquaintance. I packed my bags, said goodbye to the bride's brother, hugged her mother, and left when I stepped out of the apartment complex. It honestly felt like I had been released from a different world. The first thing I did when I got into my car was call my husband, and I said, "I need psychological help." And he just listened, while I told him everything that had happened during that day. After I calmed down a bit and finally exhaled, I drove home through evening traffic. Later, I kept thinking about them and about how their life would turn out. I didn't call or message her because I felt it was too personal, and I believed that if she wanted to, she would reach out to me. A few months later, I received a message from Ilona, and it said, "Thank you so much for being with me that day. For not leaving me, you were like a guardian angel in my life. And you saved our family. Your conversations and your stories helped me understand a lot. Thank you. We are doing well. We are a happy family now, and there are 3 of us. We had a baby girl. I was deeply moved. And I replied with my congratulations and warm wishes. Many years have passed since then, and I truly hope they are doing well, that they learned from their mistakes, and built a life in peace, love, and support. And that's the story. And honestly, I've had many stories like this, and I'm still working as a bridal stylist, still creating beauty. So tell me, what would you have done in my place? Or in hers? How do you see this situation? Write it in the comments. I'd really love to know. And next time, I'll tell you how a drunk father of the bride scared me during wedding preparations. Thank you for watching until the end. During the video, I was showing a soft glam makeup look that anyone can recreate. I'll leave the product list in the comments. See you next time.